Some doors should never be opened. Some places should never be visited. And some horrors are meant to be forgotten. But tonight, we're bringing them back. Welcome to a collection of nightmares. 5 terrifying stories that will crawl under your skin and linger in the dark corners of your mind. From cursed floors and haunted ballrooms to chilling hotel rooms and sinister dolls, these tales will make you question reality itself. Turn off the lights, make sure you're alone, and let's begin. In the apartment complex where I live, there's a story people are scared to talk about. A girl, a student, once lived on the 7th floor. She often came home late, buried in research for her thesis, her university far from her place. That alone wasn't unusual. But the elevator, that's where the story begins. Every night, without fail, the elevator would stop on the 4th floor. The doors wouldn't open. The buttons wouldn't light up. But she always felt it, an unbearable pressure, as if someone had stepped inside with her. No footsteps, no sound. Just the suffocating, undeniable feeling of being watched. She tried to ignore it at first. Maybe it was her imagination. Maybe she was just exhausted. But each night, the weight of an unseen presence grew heavier. The silence in the small, mirrored box of the elevator became deafening. She never saw anything, but she knew something was there. One night, it became unbearable. She rushed home, nearly in tears, and begged her mother to wait for her in the lobby the next evening. "Just this once," she pleaded. "I need you to come up with me." Her mother agreed. That night, the girl arrived later than usual. 3 a.m. Relief washed over her when she saw her mother, waiting for her at the lobby as she promised. She greeted her, and they stepped into the elevator together. As expected, the elevator stalled on the 4th floor. The girl shuddered and turned to her mother. "See? It always happens," she whispered. Her mother said nothing at first. Then, slowly, she wrapped an arm around her daughter's shoulder, leaned in close, and in a soft, almost amused whisper, asked, "Do I really look like your mother?" The elevator continued to ascend, silent except for the girl's shaky breath. The next morning, the security guard found her crumpled in the elevator, alone. Her body bore no wounds, no signs of struggle, just a frozen, contorted expression of unspeakable terror. And the cameras? They showed her entering the elevator at exactly 3:03 a.m. Alone. In rural southern Illinois, a small toy company released a line of baby dolls marketed to expectant mothers. These weren't ordinary dolls. They were designed to be realistic, so lifelike that they mimicked an infant's needs. They cooed when cradled, stirred when hungry, and even cried if left unattended. New mothers raved about them at first, calling them a perfect way to prepare for the real thing. But soon, the excitement turned to unease. After a woman gave birth, the doll's behavior would change. The crying, once soft and intermittent, became relentless. The gentle rocking motion that was supposed to soothe it no longer worked. No matter how much the mother cradled or patted it, the wailing only grew more desperate. Some tried everything, changing the batteries, removing the sound chip. Nothing stopped the awful, piercing cries. And then, almost instinctively, they learned the only thing that did. A sharp shake, a harder one, a slap. Each time, the doll would quiet, but only for a little while. Soon, the soothing taps turned to violent thrashings. Desperation turned into something darker. And eventually, when nothing else worked, the mother would do the only thing left: smash its head against the wall. That always made it stop. For a while, the strange toy craze continued, whispered about in hushed voices, until the police report started. A neighbor called 911 after hearing endless, tortured cries next door. Another reported the sound of something heavy thudding against the wall. When officers arrived at one home, they followed a sickly sweet, coppery scent to the nursery. The crib was empty, the walls smeared red, and in the rocking chair sat the mother, staring down at a bundle in her arms. She smiled serenely, shushing it as she rocked back and forth. The officer swallowed hard. "Ma'am, where's your baby?" The woman barely looked up, humming a lullaby under her breath. "I got rid of that stupid doll," she said, and she continued to rock, with the baby doll in her arms. A warning to all travelers. If you ever find yourself near Red Hollow, do not, under any circumstances, check into the Pinewood Lodge. And if you have no other choice, never stay in room 206. I learned this the hard way. I was passing through Red Hollow on my way to visit my sister when my car broke down on the side of a deserted road. Midnight crept closer, and with no rental cars, no open garages, and my phone's battery inching toward death, I had no choice but to find a place to stay. The only option was a rundown motel on the outskirts of town, the Pinewood Lodge. The neon sign flickered weakly, buzzing in the silence. The parking lot was empty. A bad sign, but I was exhausted, and the alternative was sleeping in my car. Inside, the front desk was manned by an old man with sagging skin and milky eyes that never quite met mine. He didn't speak, just slid a brass key across the counter. The tag attached was scratched and worn. Room 206. The hallway was dim, the air thick with the scent of mildew and something faintly metallic. As I reached my room, a cold weight settled in my chest. The number on the door, 206, wasn't printed like the others. It was scratched into the wood, deep gouges running through the numbers like claw marks. A warning, maybe, one I should have heeded. The room itself was suffocating. Floral wallpaper peeling at the edges, a sagging bed, an old box TV humming faintly in the corner. It smelled damp, but underneath that something rotting. I dropped my bag onto the chair and collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. That's when I noticed the closet door. It was open, not by much, just an inch or two, but I could have sworn it had been closed when I walked in. A chill crawled down my spine. I forced myself up, walked over, and pulled it shut. As soon as I lay back down, I heard it. A whisper. Faint. Almost too soft to notice. I see you. Every nerve in my body locked up. My breath hitched in my throat. The air had changed, heavier now, pressing against my skin. My pulse pounded in my ears as I strained to listen. Silence. I swallowed hard, forcing a nervous laugh. Just exhaustion. A trick of the mind. But then, I see you. My head snapped toward the closet. It was open again, a few inches wider this time. Blackness bled from the crack, thick and wrong. The air grew stale, suffocating. My fingers dug into the mattress. I hadn't heard the door move. I hadn't seen it open. Slowly, my hand reached for my phone. But as I turned, I noticed something on the bedside table. A piece of paper. It hadn't been there before. With trembling fingers, I picked it up. The words were scrawled in frantic, jagged handwriting. Don't look at it. A static hum filled my ears. The temperature in the room plummeted. My body screamed for me to run, but something stronger, something primal, kept me frozen in place. The closet door creaked. My breath hitched. The door was wider now, and something was staring back. Not a face. Not really. Just the suggestion of one. A sliver of pale, glistening flesh peeking from the darkness. The outline of a grin. The whisper came again, this time from right beside my ear. I see you. I bolted. My bag. My shoes. My dignity, I left them all behind. My only thought was the door. My fingers fumbled against the knob, slick with sweat, before I finally yanked it open and tore down the hall. The motel was silent. Too silent. The old man at the front desk was gone. Outside, the night air hit me like ice. I gasped, my lungs burning. My car sat dead in the lot, the only one there. Something made me look back. The window to room 206 was open. Inside, the closet door stood fully ajar, revealing only a yawning abyss of blackness. And then a hand, not human, not right. Pale fingers gripped the window frame, jagged nails scraping against the wood as something pulled itself up. I ran. I don't remember stopping. Hours later, a trucker found me on the side of the highway, shaking, unable to speak. Days later, when I searched for Pinewood Lodge, it wasn't there. No records, no listings, nothing. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. So if you ever find yourself near Red Hollow, keep driving. No matter how tired you are, no matter how desperate, and whatever you do, never stay in room 206, because it sees you too. Darkness, absolute and suffocating. A void of silence so thick it presses against my skin. But then there's movement. Shapes flicker, distorted and shifting, like silhouettes against a heavy fog. I become aware of myself, feet planted on solid ground, arms stiff at my sides. My breath is shallow, my throat dry. Then music. Soft piano notes float through the air, soothing yet distant, as if played from an unseen corner of existence. My vision clears, and I recognize my surroundings with mild shock. I am in my ballroom. I look down at myself. My finest suit, a deep navy three-piece, complete with silver cufflinks. My hair is neatly styled, as if I'd prepared for a grand event. Around me, elegantly dressed guests converse with polite enthusiasm. Men in tailored suits, women in flowing, sophisticated gowns. They sip from crystal glasses, their laughter light and effortless. A grand chandelier casts golden light across the room, its glow reflecting off the polished marble floor. The air is filled with the scent of expensive perfumes, mingling with the aroma of decadent pastries and spiced wine. Despite the familiarity, something is off. I don't recall organizing a gathering, nor do I recognize any of these people. My bewilderment simmers into cautious curiosity, and I decide to seek answers. I approach a gentleman standing near the edge of the room, humming a pleasant tune as he sips a champagne. I tap his shoulder lightly. He turns. Half his face is missing. Where flesh should be, there is only a cavernous opening, exposing raw brain matter. My stomach lurches as I stagger backward, unable to contain my horror. He eyes me with mild confusion before simply turning away, as though my reaction is more offensive than his gruesome appearance. And then I see them, every guest, smiling, laughing, conversing as if nothing is wrong, is disfigured. A woman with dripping, seaweed-covered hair and a corpse-blue complexion. A man whose body is riddled with gaping, oozing holes. Twin brothers, one covered in festering boils, the other with a gaping hole melted straight through his chest. Yet, I'm the anomaly. Their gazes flicker toward me, distasteful, almost disgusted. Conversations halt as I pass. Groups shift subtly away, as if repulsed by my presence. Even the mustached butlers, strangely untouched by deformities, ignore me entirely. I do not belong here. Then, the grand doors groan open, and brilliant white light floods the room. Guests sigh in relief. Smiling, they abandon their drinks, their idle chatter, and one by one, they step into the radiance. Their figures dissolve into nothingness, swallowed whole by the light. I rush forward, desperate to follow. The doors slam shut in my face. The room changes. The chandelier flickers, its golden glow now a dull, dying ember. The walls, once adorned with utopian landscapes, twist and shift, morphing into grotesque images of decay and suffering. The food is no longer fresh and inviting. It is rotten, covered in mold, writhing with maggots. Whispers slither through the darkness. Childlike giggles, high-pitched and unnatural, echo from nowhere and everywhere. I catch my reflection in a shattered mirror, and my breath catches in my throat. I am decaying. My skin, peeling in dry, leathery flakes, clings desperately to my gaunt frame. My eyes, hollow, void of life. My suit, tattered rags hanging off a skeletal form. My hair falls in clumps. I am rotting. A voice rasps. You've been here too long. Better wake up before you forget how to. I scream and awaken. I'm on my bedroom floor, drenched in sweat, heart hammering against my ribs. A dream, just a dream. I scramble to my feet, rush downstairs to the ballroom. It is untouched, empty, no guests, no chandeliers, no tables, no laughter. The fireplace is cold, lifeless. The painting's gone. I exhale a shaky breath, pressing a trembling hand to my chest. Just a dream, a horrible, twisted nightmare. I return to my room, slipping beneath the safety of my covers. The rising sun paints the sky with pale gold. Snow blankets the earth outside, untouched and serene. But then, a breeze nudges the curtains apart. My breath catches in my throat as my eyes lock onto the ground below. Footprints, dozens of them, leading away from my front door, stretching far into the distance. Over the rolling hills, disappearing into the horizon. Someone or something was here. Some sins never fade. Some debts must always be paid. This is the confession of a man whose time has finally run out. I don't have long now. I can feel it creeping closer. I write this not for redemption, not for forgiveness. Those are impossible, but because I refuse to take this burden to my grave in silence. I must tell the story before he comes for me, before I hear the words I cannot bear to know. It was December 24th, 1944. The war was not yet over, though we could all feel the end approaching. Our unit had been tasked with sweeping through a small village in eastern Germany, searching for any lingering resistance. The night was cold, the rain relentless, soaking through our uniforms, making every step a miserable slog. Then the first shot rang out. Our sergeant, Ivan, dropped like a sack of stones. Instinct took over. We hit the ground and returned fire, though we had no idea where the shooter was. The rain and darkness turned everything into shadows. I held my fire, scanning for movement. And then I saw it, a dark shape by a wooden fence. Without hesitation, I fired. A body collapsed. Ivan was dead, but we had avenged him, or so we thought. When we moved in, our boots squelching in the mud, I felt something tighten in my gut. The body by the fence, a small frame, too small. The uniform, oversized. In his hands, a wooden toy gun. A child. I don't remember who spoke first. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was someone else. But I remember the silence that followed. Heavy, suffocating. Then Ivan, second in command, barked an order. Move on. Clear the houses. And so we did. We kicked down doors, shouting for any Germans to surrender. Then we reached one particular house. Ivan's replacement knocked, but no answer came. He raised his boot to kick it in. A shotgun blast ripped through the wood. He crumpled to the floor, blood pooling beneath him. We fired back blindly, tearing the door apart. When we stormed in, she was already dead. A young woman, the shotgun still clutched in her stiff fingers. Her defiance had cost us another man. Rage took over. We tore the house apart, ransacking every drawer, flipping over tables. When there was nothing left to take, we did what we had been trained to do. We set it on fire. The flames spread fast, devouring everything. We turned away, ready to leave this cursed place behind. And then we heard it. A wail. It was faint at first, barely rising over the crackling wood. But then it grew, shrill and desperate. A baby we had never found. By the time we realized, it was too late. The fire had swallowed the house whole. The screams, both the baby's and our own, still haunt me to this day. And then came the man. He burst from another house, sprinting toward us, screaming in German. Our translator froze, his face ashen. When we raised our rifles, he stopped us. He says the house, his family, his child. The man didn't wait for us to understand. He ran straight into the inferno. We never saw him come back out. By the time we left, the village was awake. People stood in the streets, staring, some with hatred, some with grief, most with hollow, empty eyes. I still see them in my nightmares. The deaths didn't stop that night. They followed us. One by one, my comrades died. A fall from a great height, a sudden illness, an inexplicable accident. Years passed, and they continued to drop. Some quickly. Others suffered, wasting away, muttering about eyes in the dark, whispers in the night. When there were only two of us left, my friend Joseph came to me, his hands trembling. He's coming for me, he whispered. It's my time. That night, we drank together. We wept. We confessed. The next morning, he shot himself. Now, I am alone, and I know tonight is my turn. He visits my dreams, standing at the foot of my bed, watching. Every night he smiles wider. Last night his lips finally moved. He spoke, though I could not yet hear the words. But I know, if I hear them, I will understand, and I cannot bear to know. I will not sleep tonight. Instead, I will climb to the roof. I will step to the edge. I will end it on my terms. I was only following orders. We were only following orders. But some debts must always be paid. Thank you for listening. But be careful. Some stories don't just end when you stop listening. They stay with you waiting. Which of these haunted tales unsettled you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you crave more nightmares, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Because there are always more stories lurking just beyond the Scarlet Moon. Until next time, sleep tight if you can,